mentioned, we have a really interesting topic this morning. We're pleased to have really three folks representing the state of Missouri in just a little bit different capacities. The first is, and I know he's on the line, but probably won't speak up unless we ask him some questions, and that's the Director of the Division of Facilities Management, Mark Hill. And then Michael Qutami, who also is an employee of Facilities Management, Design and Construction. He's got a long title. I think he has many hats that he wears, but he's Contract Services Manager, and then he's Project Management Unit Section Leader. So Michael is also, his claim to fame in this particular project is he is the project manager for this project. And I wanted to point out too that he's been project manager on another project that kind of has some notoriety, and that was the Echo Bluff State Park project in Shannon County that was completed, I guess, gosh, it's been almost 4 years ago now. So Michael's, again, kind of the lead project manager for the state of Missouri. And then also going to be sharing a lot of information today is Bill Ahal. Bill is a consultant to the state of Missouri. His company is called Ahal Preconstruction Services, and the state has hired him to kind of oversee the project and provide communications back to the state of Missouri. So Bill will be joining us in a little bit. So without any further ado, I'm going to call on Michael Qutami to kind of kick it off and talk a little bit about the project as a whole, and then he'll turn it over to Bill in a little bit. So stay tuned for some really, really interesting stuff. Michael, you're on. Hello, let's see. Is he muted?
I feel honored and privileged to be part of the group working on this project, a project that comes once in a lifetime, and also feel privileged and honored to speak before everybody, friends and members of the Chamber of Commerce. What I'm going to do right now is give everyone an overview, introduction about the project, kind of put you in the picture, what was, what is, and what's going to be, and turn it over to Bill after that, who's got the main PowerPoint to show you the interesting things about the repairs and the restoration methods and pictures that he's going to show you. The state capitol was built in 1917. I believe the work started in 1913, so that's 4 years. That's quite an achievement, 4 years. I don't think people can do that these days with that speed and that awesome, magnificent building, in my opinion. It is a Roman Renaissance style architecture. It is 435 feet long, 300 feet wide at its center, and the top of the dome stands at about 250 feet from the ground level, approximately 262 feet from the basement of the state capitol. There has been cycles of repairs made on the capitol since it was built, but this is by far the most comprehensive renovation and restoration to date. That includes the extent of the scope, which we're going to touch on briefly, and the fact we went with the scaffolding all the way to the dome to do some work on that portion of the state capitol. An engineering study to determine the needed repairs was conducted. The most recent one was conducted in 2009. In that study, it recommended some major repairs to the state capitol. As a result of that, that's why we have this project. These repairs are intended to keep the capitol functioning safely and protect and while protecting and preserving the historic aspects of this building. That also included waterproofing. which is significant to do to keep it for such the age this building is, to keep it watertight as best as possible. In 2016, some general revenue bonds were issued by the state. Out of these funds, approximately $30 million is being utilized for the current renovations that is taking place, the ones we're going to talk to you about here shortly. Approximately 6% of the total stone was replaced. That doesn't seem like a lot, which is a testament to the quality of the stone and workmanship that was put into this capital. The remainder of the work was stone repairs, and that's the segment Bill Ahal is going to talk to you about. The work started in March 2018, so we just passed the 2-year mark, and in a few months, by the end of the year, we will be completed with this project. So your timing is perfect, Randy. You timed this very good. The overview on this project, I'm going to go through some items, give you some idea about the scope and what's taking place. The overall exterior stone restoration on the Missouri State Capitol includes an approach for a long-term repair solution while preserving the historic materials and appearance of the building. Our repair approach was not to restore the building to a new appearance, but rather it was intended to address the life, safety, and long-term water management and serviceability issues. Some of the character-defining features is the repairs to maintain the key aesthetic features in the Capitol. The main stone distress throughout the building is related to the moisture and weathering. Mind you, this is almost 103 years old building. The most severe inherent imperfections in the original stone material, the natural veins in that stone. So it's bound to happen, is the point here. Though the natural veins are visually apparent, not all veins require repairs. Many will remain as they were originally. Much of the building is a critical point where we needed to address the water management and serviceability issues in order to preserve the historic fabric of the facade for future generations. So what we're doing here should be hopefully good for the next 50 years. It's a tremendous effort. Like I said, there were cycles of repairs, but this is by far the most significant to date. As far as the lantern and the dome and the drum, for those of you that don't know what the lantern part, it's that skinny part, the very top where the statue sits on top of. That is referred to as the lantern. Restoration of the statue Ceres, goddess of agriculture, due to structural concerns of attachment and to restore the appearance of the statue. The entire lantern was replaced due to extensive structural damage. That's how bad it was. Luckily for us, that's the only portion that had to be replaced entirely. More comprehensive repairs than main building intend to minimize future maintenance due to high cost of access and repairs. So, for example, as we speak this week, they are working on safety tie-off in the structure of the dome and add some lights. The most severe distress at the lantern stone units due to weathering of natural veins, which contributed to structural cracks that were deemed unrepairable and have to be replaced. Distress to natural veining throughout the dome and drum is more severe than the main building due to the elements and exposure to the elements. There is quite a bit repair that was done to the dome area, repairing of all the joints due to age and interior leakage. Repair of all spalled ornamental units, which represent a falling hazard. To give you an idea, on the south side, there was approximately 4,500 pound stone that could have fell any time, and we have to actually do emergency repair to that ahead of this project, before this project kicked off. Repair of all the, the replacement of sheet metal flashing at 7 levels. Most of that sheet metal was lead-coated copper. Take my word for it, this stuff works. It worked for years and years, and it's just awesome stuff. There was failing joints, leakage into the stone below, and subsequent damage, and damage from corroded steel fasteners for old sheet metals that has to be replaced. There was significant biological growth on the north half of the dome specifically, and required cleaning of the entire dome. There was restoring the windows on the drum and the dome area. And as I mentioned previously, there was, we provided safety tie mechanism for the dome to make repairs and maintenance easier and safer to handle. The next area is the main building facade. Basically, all 4 areas of the rectangular shaped facade. Overall, for the main building, the repairs are being done to address long-term serviceability and water management issues, with some repairs for life safety, such as the stone I was talking about earlier. The upper cornice and lower cornice have significant deterioration of natural veins in stone due to water management. Repairs were necessary to address falling hazards and long-term maintenance. Portions of the column capitals with loose pieces and need to be addressed. All joints caulked, traps water and lead to accelerated deterioration of the stone. Repointing will also be done, was done, and continues to be done on the southwest side of the capitol right now. While we have access, miscellaneous maintenance to facade items, cast iron, spandrels, and railings were also installed. On the north and the south porticos, which are centered on both sides, north and south sides, the significant safety concerns with the modillions and the brackets at the upper cornice that were addressed. Some have failed, and others previously were removed from the building. Rosettes and overhangings are a safety concern due to deterioration, location, and previous repairs that were made. All of those were repaired to date. And some more on the south side will be repaired. That's the remaining side to be completed. The south pediment has critical structure concerns due to cracked cantilevered stone. Major rebuilding was performed as evidenced by the temporary scaffolding that some of you may have noticed before we started the work on this project in March of 2018. New sheet metal for long-term water management and preservation of the stone, and we kept the lead-coated sheet metal. Again, that stuff is good, is very good, doesn't harm the environment, or occupants or visitors to the building, so we decided to use the same. The north portico has significant deterioration in the natural veining, with repairs required for preservation of remaining stone. The terraces and the balustrades, completion of the waterproofing at the terrace under the balustrades. This completion of the waterproofing work completes what didn't get completed in phase one, which was done back in 2015 and 2014, I believe. The pavers, 100% replacement for long-term fixing. Terrace pavers is part of this portion of the work. These are the phase one pavers, and some of those were actually replaced. Replacement stone for pavers is Phoenix from Missouri, a town named Willard, close to Springfield, Missouri, which happens to be within 20 miles of the original site for the Phoenix quarry, where the original Phoenix marble was obtained for the construction of the Capitol. Replacement of the deteriorated balustrade stone units during resetting, not determine the quantity of balustrades to be replaced versus how many can be installed. That is something that was completed, decided some of that as we go along. Not quite design build, but think along those lines. The final topic I have before I turn it over to Bill is the mock-ups and the stone selection. The facade mock-up to determine replacement stone selection was made by the Missouri State Capitol Commission. For those of you, I'm sure they're familiar, the Missouri State Capitol Commission involves some legislative and other members of the both House and Senate. That included at the time the now governor, Mike Parson, and at that time he was the lieutenant governor, I'm sorry. 3 stones to be considered, were considered for use. The Phoenix from Missouri, like I said, it's outside of Springfield. The St. Clair in Oklahoma, and the Batesville in Arkansas. Those were selected based on the criteria needed for strength and durability, but more important, closest in appearance for the stone that was replaced to be replaced. All 3 of these stones are from the same vein of rock, simply in different states that the vein occurs. That is the Carthage, which is no longer available, but again, the site that we got the stone from is about 20-25 miles from that original site. We're just fortunate. The stone selection is very important from aesthetic standpoint. There will be some pockets where it looks shinier than others, but it's the same stone. It's just a matter of placing a brand new stone next to 103 years old stone. The mock-up on the facade stone started in March 2018 with anticipated stone selection that was made in mid-May 2018 by the State Capitol Commission. The mock-ups were used to establish a preservation criteria and project expectation for appearance and construction processes. This is the general overview. I know it's too much information, but I figured it'll be best to give you some thoughts into this project, its cost, its schedule, and the type of process that led to this. And Bill has got a great presentation. We'll talk about the type of details and restoration and repairs that were made to the stone. Bill?
Okay, Mike, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. I get ready for some pictures that you probably will never be able to see again because of where they were taken. So with that, I'm going to start with a picture of the original construction underway. The last time there was scaffolding on the dome. Also then on the right of the picture is the original Ceres statue looking back down towards the north. And keep in mind everything as much as you can remember what Mike brought to you, because we're going to cover all of that in pictorially here in the next few minutes. So as Mike said, the original stone for the Capitol came from Carthage, Missouri. That quarry is no longer operating. The hole in the ground is there, but to get that original stone was not possible. However, the stone that was chosen, and the other two that were in the final selection from Oklahoma and Batesville, Arkansas, even though they are in different states, they are all in the same geologic formation. One thing to keep in mind when we use the word marble is that we think of marble as something maybe on our countertops at home, very hard, very dense. The Carthage marble is actually a limestone, and limestone is a porous stone, and therein is some of the issues with using limestone on any building, because it is porous, it does absorb water. Natural cracks in the stone, by the way it was formed millions of years ago, can cause problems, and all those problems manifested itself in the Missouri State Capitol, and were drivers to the renovation that was done. Mike mentioned some severe deterioration and problems. What you see here is a picture of the temporary scaffolding that was up well in advance of the construction because of the 4,000-pound stone on the corner of the south portico. This is in the media lot looking back at the Capitol, that was literally falling out. That has been repaired, but it was in such a condition that needed temporary shoring. So we have some pictures here of the current Capitol, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. So this is the what it used to look like. There's the east side. Again, I mentioned the Carthage marble is geologically classified as a limestone. It is visible bedding plane. It's a sedimentary rock which is formed by layer upon layer upon layer of material being on top of each other, and versus other types of rock. There's a picture of the original quarry that's closed around 1970, and it because of its lack of durability, the Carthage marble fell out of favor in usage. Mike mentioned the Capitol Commission master plan that was commissioned to take a look at the Capitol, and we're going to see some pictures here of some of the issues that were found. And you can see this is near the top of the Capitol, some of the cracking. There's a shot of the entire Capitol and the cover page of the report. So the first thing that was done is an assessment. Let's see what we have to deal with. What you see is some rappelling, which was one method of assessment. There's a picture of the dome. Mike mentioned this, the biologic growth on the north side of the dome. That's the very dark material you'll see there on the dome. And again, to the north, mold. You may have that on your house at home if you have a north-facing home. Still thing to happen. And limestone makes it worse because it absorbs the moisture, which promotes that type of biologic growth. Drones were used for assessment to look at places that were inaccessible without scaffolding getting to. There's a lot of drone usage, flights, pictures taken. Here's some pictures of the plaza terrace pavers as they existed before. You'll see a number of different colors. That is because there is a variety of other stones in the Capitol. It was built not only with the Carthage marble, but there is Indiana limestone, Alabama limestone. There's kind of a mix of stones on our Missouri State Capitol, or I would say there is still some remaining, and I'll cover that later. There's pictures of some of the deteriorated pavers. After the assessment, then it came time to document it. So there you see one of the workers from the stone consultant taking pictures of some of the damage. You see just one picture of there's hundreds of pages marking every stone on the Capitol and its condition, and which was later used to determine the scope of the work for the project. So the findings, there you see some representative pictures of the damage that needed to repair immediately. From the right there, you see the biologic growth on the dome. The lantern, which Mike mentioned was completely replaced, exhibited all the structural problems that you see in the other pictures. You see cracks. You see down in the lower left-hand corner one of the rosettes that literally had fallen off and was retrieved during the assessment phase. And the distress that Mike mentioned, due to the weathering of the stone, there's some classic examples of the horizontal planes of the rock beginning to separate, the stone beginning to separate, which it does naturally. You see a picture of some stone feature there that literally have fallen off, and there's no place to go but down with that. And so that falls down on the plaza, on the terrace. So then, now that everything's been documented, what do you do? Mike mentioned the goal was not to put a new look on the Capitol, but to restore it in a manner that it was the same as the original Capitol, to maintain its historic value. So the first priority, of course, was life safety. Where were there portions of the Capitol that were literally falling down that could become a hazard to people below, and to letting water into the building and causing further damage. Priority number 2 was serviceability, and that was basically repairing stone that could continue to deteriorate in the coming years, since the Capitol is going to be around a long time. And the final priority was aesthetics. While important, the first 2 were the ones that needed to be addressed first, and then aesthetics was third priority. Life safety. So when you look at some of these pictures, you see the damage. You see stone in places that are not good, that the stone could fall down upon people on the beneath and allow water infiltration into the Capitol. And there's just some examples. On the left there is one of the stone columns, and a huge piece that would come down like a big knife. Serviceability, issues allowing water in. Top left there's a joint in the stone where has been mortared previously, has continued to separate. Water can enter the Capitol. All these cracks that you see allow water to enter in the Capitol and into the stone, and do a couple of things. Caused further deterioration of the stone, particularly in the freeze-thaw periods of the winter, where the water expands and increases the damage. And then, of course, water can find its way into the Capitol, which causes interior damage. Aesthetics. So here are some things that you probably wouldn't have noticed, because they are up, in this case, these are about mid-height on the Capitol, but you see where pieces of the stone have broken off. Not all the aesthetic issues on the Capitol were addressed, but I would tell you that you'd have a hard time finding them unless you have a pair of good binoculars and you're walking around. The project was able to address almost all of the aesthetic issues, but again, when you have something very small at the top of the Capitol in a place that was very expensive to replace, and it's not causing any other issues, it may have not been addressed necessarily. There's some more aesthetics. Again, things you may or may not have noticed in the Capitol previously. These have all been addressed. So then, once that was done, we went into the construction phase. There was a bidding period, and the contractor was chosen, Billy and Andrews Masonry and Restoration, affectionately known as BAMR, who this is their business. This is their only business, is restoration of historic structures all over the country. And so we'll get into the very beginnings of the construction. And for those of you that may remember when things started, there in the lower right is a picture of the south lawn of the Capitol, as it was covered to be a laydown area, a staging area. The upper picture is some of the initial scaffold that went on to the south side. The scaffold went up on the south, as you may recall, and progressed around the Capitol in a counterclockwise fashion. There's the scaffold being erected on the left. Soon after the contractor was chosen, one of the first major tasks they had was to put together what's called mock-ups and for the final selection of which stone to use. These were done on the north side of the Capitol. They were done sort of in secrecy so that there was no bias in the choice. They were all not in one place, and the mock-ups were done to all the different types of features of the Capitol, from the facade to the pavers to the rosettes, so that those that were choosing, the Capitol Commission, when making the decision, would see the different stones in all their different settings and all their different uses on the Capitol. There were 10 replacement stone options, meaning styles and types of stone. There were cleaning trials were part of that, cleaning of the stone to see what the different stones looked like. And we knew that the aesthetics would be difficult to match, but this seemed to be the only best way to make this determination. So then in one May morning, the Capitol Commission met and the decision was made. The three stones that had been narrowed down as the choices because, as Mike said, of their durability and structural integrity, were all in the same geologic formation, as you can see on this map here. Although it covers a large area, it's all the same stone, just coming from different locations. The Carthage there just north of Joplin was the original location, and you can see that the Phoenix Stone Quarry north of Springfield in Willard, Missouri is not that far away. Again, all in the same Ozark Plateau, all in the same geologic formation. So once the mock-ups were complete, the Capitol Commission was gathered one rainy May morning and went out to the north side of the Capitol. They were shown all the different stones, the different features that had the stone, and asked to make a decision. And by vote, and they did not know which was Arkansas stone, which was Oklahoma stone, which was Missouri stone. The choice was made of the Missouri Phoenix stone, which pleased our then Lieutenant Governor and now Governor Mike Parson, and everyone, that it was that the Missouri stone, although it's the same geologic formation, was chosen. So from this, we knew what stone was going to be utilized, and the task was then to get started on the construction. Here's a picture of the current Phoenix marble quarry down north of Springfield, and you'll see that these nice sharp faces, almost like the finished stone. Unlike a lot of quarries, those of you that may have ever been in a stone quarry where you may blast stone out or drill it, split it, this is actually cut by a large saw. And if you see in the large picture, you see those circular bands. That's actually how they cut the blocks of stone out. And so what you're seeing there are actual stone blocks that came out of the quarry that then get cut again and again and again and fabricated into the different features of the Capitol, from the rosettes to the pavers. Back to some of the documentation here. You see some markings on the stone, and those will correlate with the hundreds and hundreds of pages of documentation about the damage around the Capitol. This provided identification for the contractor to know which stones needed what type of attention. And this is a very complex system, but it worked very well. The demolition then began. So the stone consultant visits the site quite often, and every time they came down, they stayed ahead of the contractor by designating which stones were to be replaced, which stones were repaired in place, and any other repairs that needed to be done. And with that, the workers began removal of stone that needed to come out and be totally replaced. So in this picture here, you see the markings on different pieces of stone. You see notations there of reset, which means that stone was taken out and reset because for some reason or another it was not structurally in good shape as far as its attachment to the building. Here's a shot of the fabrication. Now the ornate stone was fabricated in a shop outside of Chicago, Illinois, that does this kind of work and has done this kind of work on a U.S. Capitol and the White House, as a matter of fact. The pavers were actually fabricated at the fabrication facility down near Springfield. A Dutchman. What's a Dutchman? No, it's not someone from another country. Well, it is, but in this case, for our project, it is the type of repair to the stone where literally the face of the stone is removed and a new face is put onto it. But when the integrity of the mounting of Ceres. And then there's a picture in the middle of several folks. Some may look familiar. My Keogh's in there on top of the Capitol. So Ceres was removed. One of the largest cranes that's made, 450 to 500 ton crane was used to remove Ceres. 250 feet plus another 10, 11 feet to the top of Ceres and sit back at a distance. Although Ceres only weighs 1,000, 1,100 pounds, when you reach out that far, it takes a lot of pull. Try lifting up 15 pounds with your arms outstretched, and you know what I'm talking about. There's a picture of Ceres being removed initially to go to the conservator for restoration. There's Ceres on the ground as she came off, and then some pictures of when it was initially removed of the viewing before she was whisked off to Chicago to the conservator's studio. There's a picture of Ceres before, and there's a picture of Ceres after to give you an idea of what was done. It was very extensive. It took several months. There was no structural damage to Ceres despite the 300 plus hits by lightning. But the coating was restored and Ceres was good for a long, long time again. Ceres is not a lightning rod. Well, it is a lightning rod, but it's not the lightning rod for the Capitol. However, it has served that purpose because of the fact that it is bronze and sitting at the highest point of the Capitol. And there's a picture for that would be hard to take right now because the scaffold's gone, of Ceres at the top of the Capitol, back in place, just before the scaffold supporting things was removed. So construction continues. Originally are set to be about a 30-month project. Things are moving along right where they need to be towards their completion. We've had an occasional obstacle. This one, you will remember from back in 2019 when a little tornado skipped through Jefferson City. Thankfully, that went east of the Capitol. The damage that was sustained by the project was very thankfully limited to a lot of the wrap on the side of the scaffold was torn off just because of the winds. But we were very fortunate compared to other parts of Jefferson City when that tornado hit. So now we're going to go through some pictures of progress. These are all past. The upper left is the behind all the stone is generally a masonry backup on our Capitol. There's a picture of the masonry backup of the lantern section that was repaired before the new stone was put on. There's a picture up at the dome within the scaffold of some of the new stone that went on the very top of the dome. There's now some pictures inside the scaffold of stonework going on. Some of the waterproofing that Mike mentioned in the lower left that was replaced on one of the ledges that's up very, very high on the Capitol, on the body of the Capitol itself. There were some workers working on the stone within the scaffold. There was also some repairs to the copper roof and flashings throughout. And there is a picture of some new copper. This project did not include general roof replacement or repairs, but areas where new flashings were required to mitigate the water infiltration. There's also a fall protection system that has been added, one up at the lantern, one down at the base of the columns, and that is to allow safe access to replace or to work on the new lighting system that was put in at the base of the columns. There was lights there, however, they were generally not working very well, and was a very tough way to get to them to work on them. Now there's a safety tie-off system and access door has been put in to be able for the capital maintenance to get to that. Also, the pavers, as mentioned, was done throughout the Capitol. There's some pictures there looking down from the scaffold on the south side of the Capitol towards the east. On the right is some of the terrace pavers. The styrofoam you see is part of the support system for the pavers. And on the lower left is the west side of the Capitol. I took that picture just actually late last week. That's a very current picture. And what's going on right now? That scaffold is coming down. And so again, these are very current pictures. There's a picture from upper left is the top, near the top of the scaffold as it's coming down. There's as it sits 3 days ago, and there's the workers dismantling the scaffold as they come around the southwest corner towards the south portico. Scheduled completion November of 2020. Contractor is on schedule of this restoration of our state capitol.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. What an interesting presentation. It's really amazing to me that all this work was going on behind that covering and with all the scaffolding, and we were just unaware of it here in Jefferson City. So this is just amazing. Really appreciate your insight into this. I don't see any specific questions for our speakers on the chat. So I will just one more time thank you all. One question I had is, this is considered to be phase 2 of the Capitol renovation project. Is there a phase 3 planned? I guess that question would be for Michael or Mark Hill or somebody on the line, maybe.
I think they're muted right now, Randy.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let's see.
Yeah.
There they go.
Yeah, I'll take this one, Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Mike, and I was hoping Mark will take that, but I don't know if he's listening or not. But there really isn't phase 3 as such that I'm aware of, but there is a master plan study and looking into the long-term to include inside the Capitol renovations as well. I honestly do not know the status of that right now, but I know they had a group that was looking into that closely, and we're talking possibly in the 100 million and above range that includes inside and outside. And by that, I don't mean the work we're doing, I mean to reconfigure, possibly add to the grounds of the Capitol, that kind of stuff. That is what's taking place right now. I'm not sure if any of that will take hold, but hopefully some of it will, because when we started on this project in 2017, some of that work included some inside work that never materialized. That was including removing some of the staff to the highway, the Department of Transportation next door, MoDOT next door, and remove some of the MoDOT staff to the Missouri Boulevard location. But anyway, this master plan includes some of that work, plus a lot more, like I said, including something similar to what you see at the Arch Campground with the visitor center. You know, some of that was looked into, but that's where that is,
Yeah,
conceptual right now.
Okay, and so that is, I guess, all pending appropriations, and I understand that there are no current appropriations for that work to be done. Okay, well, let me once again thank Bill and Michael and Mark Hill for allowing us to share this with some of our members. I think this will be our last weekly Friday coffee, as I think Kelsey mentioned. And so stay tuned. Is that correct, Kels, for the future schedules?
Yes, July 10th is our next one, and it will be in person and on Zoom.
Okay, everybody, have a great day today, Friday, and have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.